Good morning. My name is John Scott. I'm Vice President of Automation Sales for the Americas, and I'll be your host this morning for the webinar. This morning's webinar will be focused on the process automation from the gate to the yard. In the last two sessions, we focused first on the process automation from the rail to the yard, and most recently on the process automation from the key crane to the yard. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, if you take a moment and just think about your terminal's operation and think about the process that most manual terminals use today in order to provide information to the terminal operating system so that the terminal operating system can in turn optimize the workflow and keep track of the containers. So in most terminals, this role falls to two types of individuals. So first, you have the operators of the equipment. And in some terminals, they may play a role in entering information onto a screen, which updates the terminal operating system. This, of course, is a distraction from operating the equipment and creates a safety challenge. Secondly, many terminals have additional workforce deployed either on foot or in a truck in the terminal. And those individuals are responsible for either via radio, dispatching commands to the operators, or typing information manually into a computer that updates the terminal operating system. So when we talk about process automation, we're talking about removing the manual process of updating the terminal operating system. So we no longer need to have additional labor deployed in the terminal, either on foot or in trucks, in order to update the terminal operating system. And that, of course, helps to improve dramatically the safety of the terminal. So as we go through the presentation today, we'll talk more specifically about the different roles and responsibilities of labor as we deploy a process automation solution. The second thing we'll talk about today is security. So when we talk about the process from the gate, we're talking about the entry of the street trucks into the terminal and the operating of the street trucks within the terminal. So, Mike O'Brien is pictured here, was part of the Port of Oakland's Secure Truck Enrollment Program STEP that was deployed in 2007. And this program used RFID in order to validate the ID of the truck and to provide greater security around who had access to the terminal. A similar program was deployed in 2006 in the ports of LA Long Beach, and additional program similar to this will go live in New York, New Jersey. All told, there are about 30 terminals using the solutions that we'll talk about this morning. So we've talked about the role of volume and the strain that puts on the terminals. So we've talked about the larger ships, and if you think about the impact that the larger ship has on the operation, so typically that vessel still wants to leave in a similar time frame to the smaller vessels, which means additional equipment and additional people have to be deployed in order to unload and reload that vessel in a timely manner. So this, of course, creates congestion. And even though the terminal may not be handling more TEU per year than it was designed for, it may find itself very suddenly handling more TEUs per shift than it was designed for. And this creates safety concerns for the operators. So if you look at the chart, what this is showing is the direct correlation between the amount of TEUs that are handled by a terminal and the safety issues that arise. Also shown here is the impact that a process automation solution can have, not only on the efficiency of the operation, but also on the safety of the operation. And that's what we'll be talking a little bit more about today. So as we go through these solutions today, you'll hear discussion of OCR, optical character recognition, and our partner for that is APS technology. We'll also talk about RFID, and our partner for RFID is Zebra. The tracking technology we talk about is largely provided by Simeo, and one of the benefits of the SmartPort solution is the alliance that includes the ability to pre-integrate all of these solutions, and to ensure that the terminal operator is not having to build the puzzle to put these pieces together. It allows the terminal operator to have a single point of contact for managing the project, and a single point of contact for go live, and a single point of contact for support after the program is live. Each of the members of the SmartPort Alliance have an integrated product marketing team, and have the ability to work together to ensure that future enhancements to the system work together, and that everything continues to work and operate as it should. So let's take a little bit closer look at the different modules. When we talk about the SmartPort process automation solution, there are a number of different modules. We've talked in the past about the Smart Key application and also about the Smart Track application. So we'll talk today, focus more today on the gate. So Smart Lane, the process automation at the gate, Smart Truck, the tracking of the truck in the terminal, Smart Lift and Smart Stack for automation within the yard. And then importantly, we'll also spend some time and have a demonstration of the SmartFleet software today. And in addition to just making the maintenance portion easier, SmartFleet also has the ability to increase the safety, and we'll talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and take a more detailed look at the process that exists in many terminals today. So let's focus on the gate first. Look at the upper section of the slide where we talk about the manual process. And if you think about your process today, you typically have a clerk deployed, in some cases in each lane. In other cases, they may be centralized into a kitchen environment and supporting one or more lanes. But typically, it's a person that's relied upon to identify the truck, potentially entering the license plate ID, to identify the driver, and potentially inspecting some type of driver ID, and to identify the container and type the container information in. There's also a bill of lading number and other information that clerk may be entering. So when we talk about the Smart Lane automation, we have the ability to automate all of that. And now the only thing that the clerk is needed for is exception handling. And so the process through the gate becomes streamlined and more efficient, and a person is not controlling the speed of your gate process. So when we look at the second part of the in-gate process there, you'll see a couple icons there. So the first step, the tag can be used to validate the truck. An automated ID can be used to validate the driver. OCR, optical character recognition, is used to ID the container. And if the terminal is using an appointment system, all of the other required details can be entered by the drayage company prior to the truck arriving. So that ID can be used to trigger off the entire gate event. And a work instruction can be provided to the trucker via either an LCD screen or a buck slip, and the entire process can be automated for the gate in. So let's go to the second step now. Let's take a look at the yard dispatch. So typically in a manual process, once that street truck enters the yard and arrives at the lifting equipment, there's additional labor that's deployed either on foot or in an adjacent pickup truck. And that person's responsible for identifying the truck, verifying the container that truck is there to pick up, and then providing a dispatch, typically by radio, to the RTG in order for the RTG to know which container to deliver. So all of these manual steps take time, and of course having a person, an incremental person there, creates safety issues. So in an automated terminal, in an automated scenario, we have the ability to track the truck, we're tracking the RTG, and we know the work instruction. So we can automatically dispatch the job, and we can automatically track the final position of the container movement in the stack. So there's no need for a person to manually update that, the operator or an additional clerk. And lastly, at the outgate. So at the outgate, we have the ability to verify again the container ID using OCR and the truck ID using RFID. So this ensures both from a security standpoint, you don't have a container leaving that shouldn't be leaving, and it also automates that outgate process. As long as those two items are confirmed and match what's expected, then the truck will be allowed to leave automatically with no need for clerk intervention. So it speeds up the process as well as providing an additional level of security. So let's take a closer look at each of these modules that are involved. So our partner for Smart Lane is APS for the OCR capability and Zebra for the RFID capability. Now, APS has the ability to provide not only the OCR, but also the entire kiosk and the cameras that may be required if you're doing any type of empty container or damage inspection. About the only process that can't be automated is the manual verification of the seal. So if you are recording a seal number, that process will still be manual. If you're simply recording the presence of a seal, that can be automated. So once the truck is validated, both by RFID and the container validated in terms of its identification, we can speed the process at the gate, and we can also eliminate the need for manual labor in the lanes, from a safety standpoint. Let's take a look at the next step in the yard, Smart Truck. This slide is very enlightening around take a careful look at the trucks there in the lane that are queued, and look at the yard truck that's parked in between, and look at the person that's outside that yard truck talking to the outside trucker. So what's going on here is a very standard process in a manual terminal. That clerk is confirming with the street truck driver the container that they're there to pick up, and then that clerk will radio back to the RTG operator the container that needs to be delivered. So needless to say, that's not a very efficient process, and it's certainly not a safe process having a person walking around there. So when we talk about automation, we're talking about removing the need for that person to be there and removing the need for that person to drive the work instruction for the RTG operator. So by tracking the truck, we know exactly where the truck is in the terminal, and we're able to automate that process, which of course makes for not only a more efficient operation, but a safer operation as well. So let's take a closer look. This slide shows each of the little blue dots there is a locate blink for a street truck. So by using RFID within the terminal, we're able to track very accurately every 5 seconds where that truck is. So this allows us to do a number of things. First, from a security standpoint, if we have an area of the terminal where we don't want street trucks to be, maybe you've got a secure area for customs. Maybe you've got a portion of your terminal that is automated and you don't want street trucks there. So we have the ability to provide an alert if a street truck enters an area where it should not be. Secondly, by matching at the gate as part of the Smart Lane gate in process, the work instruction for that outside truck, we know where that truck is supposed to go in the terminal. And by tracking that truck very, very accurately, we know when that truck arrives at that point of work. That allows us to send a message to the terminal operating system, because you may have lifting equipment, particularly in a top loader or a reach stacker environment, that's covering multiple lanes. And without some type of notification, the operator won't know that the street truck is in position and ready to be serviced. So by us providing this message, we can eliminate the need for a person to be driving around or supervising and trying to provide that notification manually to the lifting equipment. The second thing is we can also provide a message when that street truck is in proximity to a piece of lifting equipment. And we can qualify that message based upon that street truck also being in proximity to their desired point of work. So that allows us to promote a job for a piece of lifting equipment only if that street truck is where it belongs and where it needs to be in order to be serviced. Then the last step is to verify that the work instruction was actually followed, and that the container that was lifted is actually the container that was meant to be lifted. So there's a benefit here certainly for the terminal operating system in not receiving inaccurate data. And there's also a significant benefit from a security standpoint to know that the containers that are supposed to be exchanged are the ones that are being exchanged for lifting equipment. And then I guess lastly, for those terminals that do have, particularly in North America, that do have still a wheeled operation and allow an outside trucker to leave a container behind on wheels, we have the ability to track that truck. And there's a software algorithm that looks at the park signature that's generated as that truck slows down. The operator gets out, unhooks the air hoses, gets back in, pulls away. That signature there is depicted on the slide. It's the red line that you see as the truck slows, goes into reverse, and then ultimately pulls away. So we're able to use that in order to notify the terminal operating system on where that wheeled container was left in the yard. So for an operator like Matson or Horizon or Crowley, there's a lot of value there. Let's talk about smart lifts. So put yourself in the seat of that operator there, and imagine the challenge in a manual operation of first identifying the truck that's beneath you. So you need to somehow verify that truck. So some operators will have the outside truckers put a number on the roof of all their cabs, or in some way try and make it easier for that operator to identify themselves. The second thing that operator's got to do is scroll through a list in order to try and find the truck the job that corresponds to the truck that's beneath them. And then third, they need to do a quick validation that that truck's actually in the right place and that job can be performed. So all of this takes time, and it's also a distraction for the operator and creates safety issues. By using the SmartPort process automation, we eliminate all of that. We know where the truck is, we know the job that's supposed to be performed, and we either promote to the top of the list a single transaction for the operator to work, or we simply provide a single instruction for the operator to work. The operator goes ahead and performs that job. We're also able to keep track of the container, of course, that was delivered, and ensure that container matches the work instruction that was part of the job that was promoted. The next step, of course, once the container is either with the lifting equipment or as the container is being delivered and shuffled around to find the correct import box, we're keeping track of each one of those container moves. So each time the twist lock is engaged on the lifting equipment and a container is lifted or set, SmartTrack is keeping track of that. And this real-time database of accurate container IDs and accurate container positions is shared with the terminal operating system. And again, there's no need for a person to be manually confirming this information. So from a safety standpoint, they can either focus on their job if they're an operator, or if they were previously deployed incrementally to enter this data, they don't need to be there. They can handle exceptions remotely, and they don't need to be part of the standard process. So the last application we're going to talk about is SmartFleet. So SmartFleet certainly has an operational benefit. It allows the maintenance crew to understand exactly what is happening with each piece of equipment remotely. So from a safety standpoint, this means you don't have to have engineers or mechanics going out into the field to get on a piece of equipment to try and understand what's going on with it. They have access to all of that information remotely. It also means that you're likely to have a safer fleet. Your tire pressure can be monitored remotely. The status of the equipment can be monitored remotely. For example, a shock sensor on a spreader can be kept track of, and if there's damage, can be dealt with proactively. So we're able to ensure that you've got not only the ability to monitor the fleet remotely, but also to ensure that you've got a fleet that is operationally more sound. So we're going to go ahead and watch a video here provided by one of my coworkers, Miko, that'll give us a little bit more information and insight into SmartFleet.
Thank you. My name is Mika-Petteri Kuro, and today I'm going to give you a demonstration of our SmartFleet monitoring tool. SmartFleet fits any type of equipment, increasing availability and safety by allowing all monitoring to be done remotely. The data shown is from one of our existing applications. SmartFleet is built so that you have fleet overview with the basic information on one screen. Each box represents one machine. The main icons tell you the vehicle number, the engine information, on, active or off, whether there is a Wi-Fi connection, the stability of the machine to prevent tipping over, and the warnings. Alarms are shown in yellow and red, with the latter being more urgent. Finally, the total running hours are shown for each machine. At times, the fleet overview will not provide sufficient detail. By double-clicking a machine, more detailed information can be accessed. The statistics screen shows cumulative counter values as well as actual numbers. On the top, common information and current status information is displayed. At the bottom of the screen, there are data shown related to machine moving, actual speeds, and cumulative hour and counters. On the right side, you can see counters for moved containers and actual from the current load. The engine overview shows an engineer how the engine is currently used. The fuel-related figures and actual such as speed and air temperatures are illustrated as well. The engineer can also see whether the pressures are correct and if the coolant level low warning is active. It's inactive now, so that level is okay. SmartFleet also ensures data trace where key values are visualized in trends. When a machine utilizes electric power, details related to electric drives and generators are visualized in AC electrics pages. Brakes and hydraulics is focused on temperatures and various on-off type warnings for those systems. Hoisting is a major part of the operation. On the left, you can see hoist speed from PLC and container weight. On the right, safety-related data visualized with on-off LEDs. Furthermore, there are LEDs showing the hoist direction and joystick reference, showing the values the drivers are asking from the joystick. Auxiliary systems show whatever auxiliary systems are included in the machine. In this case, central applications. Other options to be shown could include, for instance, tire pressures. Moving into spreader tab, we see basic figures about spreader, like length and height. On the spreader, there are indicators showing the status of twist locks and land pins. The alarms page provides an overview of the information of recent alarms with timestamp. The alarm index helps tracking the number of alarms in the system. Error code is the error classification from 1 to 7, where 7 is the most critical. The error source can be found from the source function with the description for that error being provided. Gantry travel related data is visualized in this page. On the left-hand side, there are figures and trend of drive models. On the right, there is a speed pedal reference indicating the driver's behavior. Idle times presented are preset values for the machine, telling what is the threshold time for machine to make those maneuvers. At down right corner, driving speed is shown both in number and in trend as well. Now you have seen a short demonstration of our application for real-time monitoring of the machine fleet. Like mentioned in the beginning, the data shown in the screens was recorded from a live application. What we have shown from the SmartFleet tool today shows the remote monitoring and troubleshooting. Additionally, SmartFleet has a module collecting data and storing it for review and analysis at a later date. Should you have any questions on SmartFleet, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Okay, so Miko did a good job of covering the discussion of speed, which is certainly a very important safety item. Understanding the speed at which your operators are driving in the terminal and being able to provide training or corrective action if it's needed. So I saw also a number of questions while I was watching the video about active tag versus passive tag. So I'm just going to backtrack a couple slides here and explain something that's very important. So if all we were worried about was the validation of the truck ID at the gate, there's no question that could be handled with a passive tag. But we're also trying to automate the process processes within the terminal, and this is critical. So in order to automate those processes, we need to know where the truck is. And each of those blue dots that you see here is a location of a truck. So as that truck comes into the terminal, the tag is moved from a, what I would call a default, RFID type mode into a beacon mode, and begins to transmit its ID every 5 seconds. And that allows us to locate very precisely where that truck is in the terminal. So, for example, if you look at this slide and you see the 3 trucks in queue there, well, we have the exact same visibility to that information electronically. We understand where each truck is, we know which truck is in front of the other truck, and we can use that information in order to make better decisions on which job should be worked and in which succession a job should be worked. So it's not as simple as just validating which truck is at each piece of equipment. It's important, as you see here, to know exactly where that equipment is in the yard. And so that's the importance of using an active RFID tag, and not just an active RFID tag, a locatable active RFID tag, because without that, we can't automate these processes. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the project highlights around the globe. So these are not all the sites we're deployed at. There are far more than that, but these are the sites that are active now and are interesting, based on what we've talked about today. So TTI Long Beach, they are in the process of deploying automation from the vessel right now, Smart Key. They have already deployed process automation from the gate and have the ability to track the street trucks, as you saw in the previous slide, as well as the ability to automate the handoff and exchange with the lifting equipment. APMT Elizabeth in New Jersey will be deploying this automation as well in the July timeframe, both the Smart Key automation from the vessel as well as the Smart Truck automation from the gate. London Gateway, this is a automated terminal. They will be using Smart Stack and also Smart Path, which we talked about in the last webinar. APMT Aarhus, SmartFleet, and Malta Freeport, both SmartFleet and Smart Path. SPRC Columbia, this is an interesting one. They are a long-time user of the Smart Rail, which is the ability to do auto steer on the RTG that we talked about in the last session, as well as Smart Stack and Smart Fleet. They use Smart Fleet not only for the purposes we talked about, but also to automate a system called Maximo, which helps them to better manage the purchase order process for their maintenance group. And then lastly, they just deployed Smart Truck and are tracking the street trucks in and out of the terminal, both for an automation reason as well as a security reason. So it gives them visibility to exactly where that truck is. They're also using, interestingly, tags to track people. And, of course, once the infrastructure is in place, a tag, a $55 tag, as Mitch mentioned, can be used to track really anything you want, whether it's a bomb cart or a genset or a person in the terminal. Santos, Brazil, they're in the process of deploying Smart Key right now. DC Transnet is deploying the Smart Stack and Smart Path solutions. And APMT Salala, the Smart Stack solution as well, and then Northport, the SmartFleet application. So this gives you an idea of some of the projects around the globe. And the next slide looks more specifically at the upcoming project or go live July 15 in New York, New Jersey. So I mentioned the requirement for the street truck tag in the Port of Oakland that supports their secure truck enrollment program. There's a similar program in the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach that supports both the secure truck program there, as well as the California Air Resources Board validation that a truck is compliant with emissions. And a similar emissions validation went live this year in Seattle, ensuring that all trucks are tagged and compliant with the emission standards. So Port of New York, New Jersey is interesting because this is a security-based program, and they were able to pay for this program with security grants. So it's a government grant that's paying for the tags that are going on all of the trucks and for the infrastructure that's going in at each of the terminals in the gate lanes. This ensures that the ID of the truck is known and can be automatically verified at the gate. So it's interesting that they've been able to use grant money in order to pay for this portion of the solution. Then there are two terminal operators that have already taken a decision to move forward and to track the truck within the terminal. So that investment is made by the individual terminal operator, and it will allow the terminal operator to track the truck, as you saw previously, within the terminal. So that will be a capability at two of the terminals when the system goes live in New York, New Jersey. Interestingly, in LA Long Beach, there were a handful of terminals that had that ability when that system went live in 2006. And now if we fast forward to 2013, 12 out of the 13 operators in LA Long Beach have invested in additional infrastructure and have the ability to track that truck anywhere it goes in the terminal, which again is a benefit of having a tag that is both active and locatable. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the system and what are the requirements to make it work. So the good news is everything we're talking about today, it works with any terminal operating system. One of our largest customers on the West Coast is SSA, and we're tightly interfaced to Tideworks software. So any terminal operating system will work with the solutions that we're talking about, and any equipment as well. So there are certainly plenty of Taylor or capacity manufactured machines on the West Coast that we have worked with and automated. Now, certainly, if you have Kalmar equipment, there's a benefit that all this can be pre-installed and delivered to your site, ready to go. And from a terminal operating standpoint, all of this is already integrated with N4 or Sparks, and the product management process is aligned. And when new releases come out, the quality control process is aligned, so you're ensured that you've got a system that continues to work. So benefits to working with Kalmar and Navis certainly, but not a requirement. The second item, which I think is very important, we talk about are the people. So whether we're talking about an OCR solution at the gate or at the crane, or we're talking about an RFID solution, or we're talking about the fleet management solution or the tracking solution with Simeo in the yard, each of these components is supported by the Cargotec team. So when you phone in, whether you talk to Robert or Constantine or Ken, it doesn't matter. They understand each of these solutions. They've spent time with each of these vendors, and they're able to troubleshoot the problem. So you, the customer, are not out in the field trying to figure out which vendor to call and how to get your system back online. It's also interesting to note that this same team supports our fully automated solutions as well. So TrayPack, West Coast, that's deploying the AutoStrads and the automated stacking cranes. This is the same team that supports that group. So as you grow over time from process automation to total automation, it's the same group of experts that are supporting your investment. So let's take a break here and have an opportunity to address questions that any of the attendees may have. So go ahead and you can type your question. How much does it cost? That's a great question. So one of the things that maybe I should have spent more time on. So when we talk about the SmartPort process automation solutions, they can be deployed module by module. So for example, you may look at the infrastructure just to validate the tag at the gate. And that typically is an investment, somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000, depending upon how many lanes that validation is occurring in. Then if a terminal operator decides, okay, I want to track that truck within the terminal, Then there's additional infrastructure that's deployed on the light poles. And the cost of that hardware is about $3,000 each. And typically will be deployed on the majority of the light poles in the terminal in order to provide the level of tracking that you saw here in the presentation today. So you're usually, a typical investment all in, you're probably somewhere between $500,000 or $1 million to get started with that type of tracking, depending on, of course, on the size of the terminal. From an ROI perspective, typically these solutions pay for themselves in 6 to 12 months. So the ROI is significant. The question about the age of the equipment, we have seen some real dinosaurs for sure. So newer equipment is easier because we can interface directly with the PLC and we don't have to add additional sensors to the equipment. But we've certainly worked on equipment that's quite old, and we will add additional sensors that give us the trolley information or the hoist information, for example, on the spreader. And typically that can all be installed by your own mechanics. And from a time, I see another question here on timing. Historically, we're now up to what I would call our third generation of hardware. And so we are able to do a lot of this assembly off-site. So the GPS components, the Wi-Fi components, the RFID components, this can be assembled off-site, and we ship a connectorized box, which will speed up the install time for the mechanics. Typically you might spend a day outfitting a day or two outfitting a piece of lifting equipment, and less time, of course, outfitting a terminal tractor. While people are typing, I noticed we had somebody that joined from Crowley. One of the other uses of the tag, so we do have a customer, Matson, and that customer operates a closed loop operation. And so for that customer, we've actually tagged each of the containers. And so we're able to use that ID to identify the container at the gate, to identify the container at each point, at each lift within the terminal, and then also, of course, to track that container anywhere to a wheeled spot within the terminal. So again, once the infrastructure is in place, that active RTLS tag can be used to track any asset, whether it be an outside street truck or a container, or a bomb cart or a genset or whatever you wish to track. Looks like we may have run through our questions. I'll just step through our last slide. So just a quick summary. What we talked about today is automating the process of moving information to the terminal operating system. So regardless of the terminal operating system you use, it needs information in order to optimize your terminal and to provide work instructions to the operators. And so what we're talking about is using automation in order to automate the information flow to the terminal operating system. So now, instead of having people driving the flow of information to the terminal operating system, we use technology, whether it be OCR, RFID, or GPS, in order to gather that same information. It's safer. We don't need to have people out in the terminal unnecessarily. It's more secure. It's not influenced by people. And it's certainly more efficient because the information doesn't flow at the speed of the person. It's an automated process. As fast as your operators can operate the equipment, that's how fast the information goes to the terminal operating system. The next thing that you're going to want to think about is as your terminal not only grows, but as your terminal begins to handle larger size vessels, this creates the type of strain and risk from a safety standpoint that we talked about. So even though the overall volume in your terminal may not be growing, certainly as you begin to serve larger vessels, the activity level during any period of time can increase significantly. And there's great benefit in being able to automate the process in order not to have safety issues or cost issues. So lastly, if you're headed to TOC Europe, or any of your colleagues are headed to TOC Europe, we'll be there. Take the time to swing by and talk to us. If you're not headed over, you're welcome to call me, or in South America, to call Zeke, and spend time with you and step through the return on investment and be able to walk through the payback for this type of solution. Thank you. Appreciate your time.